I'm Pablo with MPB, and today we're going to be pitching two legends of the DSLR and mirrorless world against each other, the Canon 5D Mark II and the Sony A7. And we're going to be using a nifty 50 on each of these setups so we can keep the comparison fair. Now, these cameras were both groundbreaking when they came out in 2008 and 2013. And because they've been around a while now, you can get these at a ridiculously low price, which leaves you loads of money to invest in lots of different lenses and things. So these are great ways into each of these respective systems. Now, of course, with a DSLR, you have an optical viewfinder, and many people prefer shooting that way. And with a mirrorless camera, you have an electronic viewfinder. And also, because it doesn't have a mirror, the camera is quieter and lighter to use. The real way to see how these cameras perform is to use them in the field. So we're going to head into Brighton, we're going to put these two head to head and see exactly how they perform. So why are these two cameras considered legendary? Well, take the Canon 5D Mark II, for example. When this came out in 2008, not only did you have the amazing image quality from the Canon 5D Mark I, but with almost double the resolution. For the first time ever, you had full HD 1080 video in a small package like this. This meant that for filmmakers on a budget, if they wanted to get that cinematic look that you get with a full frame camera, you could do it with this camera, and that was groundbreaking. So when the Sony A7 came out in 2013, this was also a revolutionary camera in its own way. With its 24 megapixel full frame sensor, for the first time you had a full frame sensor in a small body like this. So you got the image quality that people came to expect from DSLR technology, but in a small package. And this camera was the beginning of Sony's dominance of the mirrorless market. I'm the seagull stalker. I don't think he liked me, but I don't blame him really. I'm creeping around with all black boxes. I mean, one immediately obvious design sort of feature that's really good with the Sony is the flip-up screen. You don't have that on the Canon, you just got a flat screen on the back. So if you want to get down low, be a bit more creative with your angles, it's a lot easier with this. So how about the menus and handling of these two cameras? Well, the Sony came out at a time when camera manufacturers were trying to get their cameras smaller and smaller. And actually, I find this a little bit difficult to hold. It's a little bit too small. So for a long period of time, it can be a little bit uncomfortable to hold. Whereas the Canon is obviously bigger, but I like how it feels in the hand. And I also like the buttons and how they're laid out on the back of the camera on the Canon. I think it feels just a bit more intuitive than the Sony. Thank you very much. Great, have a good day. how's the focusing on these two cameras? Well, I'm finding with the Canon the focusing is really quick, and I actually really like shooting through the optical viewfinder. You get a really good kind of feel about whether you're in focus or not. It's a little bit more difficult with the Sony, with the electronic viewfinder. It's a bit smaller, it's a bit darker, but what you do have with the Sony, as it's a mirrorless camera, is focus peaking. So if you're happy to shoot manual focus, then it's quite easy to do on this camera. So there are kind of pros and cons to both systems. So where we're going to see a massive difference in these two cameras is in dynamic range. If I take a shot like this with the Canon and I'm metering for the shadows, and then I take the same shot with the Sony, once again metering for the shadows, you can see that you're able to save a lot more information with the Sony in the highlights. So if you're shooting in any kind of high contrast environments, I'm afraid the Sony's going to wipe the floor with the Canon. What do I think of these two cameras? Well, when you look at the dynamic range test that we did and also the low light performance of this camera, it's clear that the Sony A7 is a much more powerful machine than the Canon. However, the Canon still produces beautiful images straight out the box. It's got that beautiful contrasty Canon look with those beautiful colors that people love across the whole industry. So even by today's standards, both of these cameras hold their own. Now personally, I enjoy the feel of shooting with the Canon and just the whole experience in general. I like looking through the optical viewfinder, and for my kind of shooting, this is my preferred camera, but I can definitely see the appeal of the Sony. Now the best thing about these two cameras is that they've both been out for quite a while now, so you can now pick these up for a really, really good deal. Both of these cameras you can get at the link below at MPB, where you can buy, sell and trade all of your camera gear. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.